Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes, and you can tell from the thumbnail what we're talking about here. It's a bit of Nigel and a bit of Tommy Sheppard. Now, Tommy Sheppard, of course, serial loser, and he is saying that they're not capitalising on the trials and tribulations of Labour, and that the Reform Party under Nigel Farage are now representing a real danger to the SNP. Now, of course, he lost. He lost his seat. He's one of many who either didn't stand or lost their seats at the general election, and he's got no way back. There's no way back for Tommy Sheppard. So, like all of them do when they've been disappointed, I think, by their party, he's attacking it. He's saying the current leadership isn't good enough. He's saying the policies are the same old policies that have tried and failed so many, many times. He's saying that despite Labour hemorrhaging support, because even when they're winning by much smaller majorities. So he's saying that despite the Labour Party hemorrhaging support, the SNP aren't capitalising on it. They aren't getting those supporters from Labour back into the SNP. They all seem to be going towards reform. Now, he's saying that this whole shift across is a chimera, in his words. He's saying that it's a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of something else. It's all mashed together. There's nothing pure about it. You can't sit there and identify one thing that's going to change anything or one thing that you blame. It's just an amalgamation of all sorts of things. He says that despite the talk from the leadership of the future improving, he says that's just mythical. It's an illusion. There will be no improvement. He says because the voters have become very tired with the party. The voters have become very tired with the party. And until they change that, until they can get a new direction, he says, not give up their core values, but change the direction, freshen the party, and start doing the job. It isn't going to attract people back. Now, if that's not a direct attack, not just on John Swinney, but also on Humza Yousaf, on Nicola Sturgeon, I don't know what is. So is he now angling for Kate Forbes, or does he want someone else other than Kate Forbes? He certainly can't be calling for Flynn, because obviously Flynn is just another Sturgeonite, just the same old BS, giving the same old rubbish time and time again. It's a one-trick pony, and unless you change the pony, people are going to stop coming to the circus. And that's what they're finding. But he says the big concern, of course, is Reform. Reform are doing incredibly well, he says. And the problem is Reform aren't even trying. They're not doing the big push in Scotland yet. They don't have the groundswell. They don't have the activists. They've got a couple of councillors, but that's through people jumping ship. They've not been voted in yet. He says, but once Reform get their feet on the ground, get their troops out and start actively pushing, he says it's going to be a bloodbath for all the other parties. He said Reform have got their act together. They're new. They're exciting. They're the next thing. Oh, look, shiny, shiny. And that attracts people. And of course, being new, Reform have never failed. They haven't made the mistakes that other parties have. And so that also attracts people. He says, and that's what the SNP has got to overcome. He says, when the SNP are fighting Labour, they know where they can beat them. Trouble is, they don't know where they can beat Reform. And he's right for once. Tommy Sheppard being right. It's weird, isn't it? The Holyrood elections coming up. As polls stand now, Reform will be the third party. And as I say, that's before they're even trying. On that run-up, Reform are going to push, this. And they are going to take a lot of votes from the Labour Party, hell of a lot of votes from the Conservative Party. I don't think they'll take too many votes from the SNP. Not many. They'll snag a few, but they won't take many. But taking them from the other parties will be enough, I think, to maybe make them the second biggest party in Scotland. And at that point, the SNP are in deep, deep trouble because the Reform Party, can go into coalition with anyone. They will be forming the government because they can jump into bed with Labour or the Tories. It's going to be a very worrying time for the SNP. It's a very worrying time for Tommy Sheppard, that's for sure. Meanwhile, Nigel and Tice and all the others, Ben Habib, they're all going to be sitting there, rubbing their hands in glee, looking to Scotland and thinking, ripe for the picking. And of course, they're right. There's going to be so many seats available. Now, given the election results expected in the polling now, of course, you've also got to remember that come May next year, there is the local elections, the council elections up and down England and Wales. I think it's 2/3. I think it's the big one. It's the 2/3 vote. And given that, if Reform do well there, they will certainly have the momentum. That will uplift all their prospective, chances in every vote coming. They'll also have a bigger standing, a bigger footprint across the country, and especially if it's in the north as well. And they can use that footprint. They take that momentum. They'll push it to Scotland. And I think come May next year, they'll give it themselves the 1 year countdown. They'll start the clock. Boom, here's where we are. We have taken, 1,000 council seats. And then they'll push that into Scotland. And at that point, you're going to see weekly polling showing Reform grow and grow and grow. And you'll see Labour and the SNP shrink and shrink and shrink. You'll probably see the Tories shrink as well. The only other beneficiary may well be the Lib Dems. And that's not that they're particularly going to grow in themselves. It's just because the other party's falling, they will rise up with Reform, because I don't think, again, too many people from the Lib Dems will join Reform. Totally different politics. But it is all live. It's all dynamic. Everything is interconnected. It's the interconnectedness of all things in politics. Holistic politics, you could say. And of course, when you have people like Tommy Sheppard admitting it, it's firstly serious, and secondly, likely. He wouldn't come out and say these things unless he was worried. And he's worried like hell. Now, he may have a problem with the leadership of the SNP, but make no bones about it. He's still SNP. He'll be looking to get a seat, probably going to try and run in the Hollywood elections, get his arse into a chair. He needs the money too. But it's all to play for. And just think what would happen if the SNP did become like the major power force in Scotland. Not the SNP. If Reform became the major power force in Scotland, it would change everything. All bets are off. Let me know what you think. Thanks a lot. Bye.